How's it going, John? Good to see you, lad.
Good to see you. I'll be honest. I think honesty is the key. I have my pupils are so small. Actual pistils in the snow.
That's just gags.
This is the Extra 10% podcast, helping you get paid tomorrow for what you do today. Invite John Holowaty and Mark Hudson to join you at the breakfast table, ride with you to work, or just randomly stumble across them in the afternoon. Let's get the extra 10% out of your day.
But when I was at uni, I have massive pupils for some reason, as in the actual pupil of my eye is huge, and then the color is so small, really thin. So it looks like I've got black eyes sometimes, which is just bizarre. But when I used to go out on nights out in clubs, now I've never done drugs, each to their own. It's never been anything that's excited me or whatever. But I drink plenty of alcohol, that's been a thing, of course, in my life. But I would go out to clubs and bouncers at doors would stop me because my pupils were so big, and I'd be I'd have to explain no, I just have massive pupils. I almost needed a note from the doctor to let me close.
You know what? It's funny. When you were saying that story, I thought of a friend of mine. I remember it for years ago. He was allergic to prawns,
right?
And whenever he had prawns, his eyes went really big.
What do you mean? As in the actual socket?
Yeah, his pupils in his eyes just expanded in his socket. So the same thing happened. We tried to get into this nightclub and they wouldn't let him in. They were like, "You're not coming in, mate. You've been on drugs." And he was like, No. He's like, "Your pupils, your eyes are massive." He was like, "No, I've just had some prawns.
I've been on prawns.
I'm allergic to prawns." And I was like, if you're allergic to them, why do you eat them? He went, "I'm allergic to them, but I just love them. I just love them." So we didn't actually get in. He was like, "No, there's no way, bro. It's not prawns. You've had something else." So
yeah. Is that just the name of the popular drug at the time?
Yeah. Exactly.
You got any prawns, bro? But
so there you go. So I was just feeling tired. I'll be honest. I've just had, I don't know what it is. It's just been one of those weeks, a bit of a funny kind of, I guess if you compare it to driving somewhere on a journey, it's been a bit of a traffic jam, a bit of a 50-mile-an-hour zone. I don't feel like the week's flown at a real true pace this week for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
It just happens that way, right? You don't just get on the motorway and it's literally 70 mile an hour all the way to your destination.
Smooth sailing.
What, bro?
No,
smooth sailing. Yeah, smooth sailing. So anyway, it's been all good. It's just been a little bit bumpier, a little bit slower, and maybe some internal stuff as well. I don't know.
Also, maybe it's just a culmination of you said on the previous podcast that the last couple of months have been some of the biggest months ever, and so it's kind of you've been working your ass off for 2 months, and I wouldn't call it burnout per se, but you're sort of you've had to. I don't know how I would describe it, but what I would say is that if you're working relentlessly for a couple of months back to back, then just inevitably you're going to have a tired week or so. But the beauty is you go to bed on Saturday, Sunday night, and then, you know what I mean? You have your 7 days. See, this is where people get into a slump, is they then turn that into a month or 6 months. Whereas if you just have it as 7 days of foot off the gas a little bit, not foot off the gas because you could still be working your ass off, and that's why you
drop down a gear, right?
Yeah, and then
or do something else.
Yeah, or maybe you just pulled over at the gas station, filling it with more gas. And then it's, I don't know why we're American all of a sudden and calling it the gas station. Oh, I am anyway. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm it's been a good week for me. There's nothing to kind of see. This is maybe where entrepreneurship, the bits that don't get spoken about is a lot of it's quite boring. Is boring the right word? It's about doing the same tasks. Jim Rohn talks about this all the time is, it isn't about doing new things all the time and doing 1,000 things or whatever. It's just get 4 or 5 tasks that are paying activities that actually move the needle forward, and then just do them over and over and over again until you get to what it is you want. So for me, I would say that like from an outsider looking in, if they were watching what I was doing this week, it would be boring because I'm just going through the motions that I know are moving the needle forward. It's not like something I can shout and scream about and say, oh, look how fancy this is and how flash it is, because it isn't flash. It's like
you're doing the work, but it's the same like in sport and music. Like Roger Federer is just literally hitting tennis balls every single day, probably 6-7 times a day. Michael Phelps, the best swimmer ever, right, was in the pool for 10 hours a day, just constantly swimming. But all we see as spectators is Wimbledon, right? We only see Cristiano Ronaldo in the final of the World Cup or whatever, taking a penalty and scoring. And, you know, the Beckham free kick always gets mentioned, the one that got England to the World Cup that time. It's like, yeah, you just saw the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. You didn't see him when he was 12 years old, booting free kicks into a tire, you know, hanging off the goalpost. You don't see any of that. And it's the same thing. It's simple and boring over and over and over again. It's those 5 key tasks. If you want to master anything, you just focus on the 4 or 5 key things, and it's just repetition, repetition, repetition. I mean, I'm learning Spanish at the minute, and it's difficult. And it's like you get a proper head fuck around it, because you're like, do I really want it? You know, I said the other day, maybe I just sack it off. And she was like, no. She said, yeah, of course you can. That's the easiest thing to do. Of course you're going to quit. That's the easiest thing to do. And I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm just saying it because I'm frustrated. There's no way on earth I'm going to quit. And then I met someone the other day. I was looking at an apartment, and she was Russian, and her Spanish was just incredible. And she was like, I said, how long have you been speaking Spanish? She was like, 3 years. I've lived here 3 years and I speak fluent Spanish now. And I was like, wow. I was like, geez. And I've been doing it a month, and I know a teeny weeny, like the smallest bit, but I know we'll do a podcast in a year's time and I'll be much better. It's just about doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And that's the point I was getting to. My Spanish teacher said, look, there's no way around this.
Yeah, there's no shortcut. There's no shortcut
looking
at all.
for the way around it. You've just got to literally, these phrases that I'm teaching you, you've got to write them down over and over again. And there they are. Like, that's my book. And I've literally just writing down the same thing over and over and over again. It's tedious. It's like doing lines at school. And, you know, it's just, you don't want to do it, but you have to do it. You have
doing lines at school. When did you go to school? The 1910s? Like,
on a chalk slate.
I was going to say, yeah, like doing
No, but when you had detention, you had to write all these things.
Right, yeah.
Another thing I just wanted to bring up, because it's, I don't know if we mentioned it on the podcast, but it's 2 years to the day that we had the best 2 years to the weekend that we had the best wedding arrival ever that any human being.
Is it really that?
Yeah,
wow.
2 years to the day.
Wait, hold on. It's 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. 2017, and I'll have to try and find that video. It'll be on Facebook, right? Because we'll have put it there stupidly. Or did
it was on Facebook. I ended up deleting it, I think, but. Right. But it was funny because it was FA Cup final day.
So shall we start the day? Should we describe the day?
Yeah. Right. So we were at a wedding, and we were in a wedding in Sarasota in Florida. Really good friends of ours, and me and Mark were pretty much spare parts for the most of the day because we weren't ushers, or Mark wasn't a bridesmaid. So it was.
But I think as well, the wedding didn't start until like 3 p.m. or something, because I guess it was on the beach, beautiful wedding, but obviously too hot to be, I guess, in a wedding dress or suit.
Yeah, it was humid. You know, it was super humid in Florida midday. At that time. There had been a lot of thunderstorms as well. So we just decided to meet up at the Tiki Bar, watch the FA Cup.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is like I haven't ridden a bike in like a decade, maybe more. I know you're the king of buying bikes and just setting them aside and never riding them, but I haven't fallen into that trap. So I'm talking like I was genuinely a teenager, maybe 14 years old the last time I rode a bike, 15 years, right? And I just remember like where I was staying, there was like a bike like there to use. So you were like, I sort of knew where I was going, but you were like, oh, meet me here. Because like you were saying, we were spare parts. Everyone else was kind of getting ready for the wedding. We were like, well, we don't really have to do anything apart from sort of put on our outfits and go kind of thing. and you were like, "Oh, I'm at this bar. Like, it's the FA Cup final. I think Arsenal playing Chelsea or something. I can't remember who they
it
played."
was.
And you were already at the bar, and then I turned up. And so we and I think we were catching up as well, because I think that we were both in the area, but we hadn't seen each other yet. Maybe, I'm not sure, or maybe we had, but only like, whatever. So we just kind of fell into our like just boys just being stupid, like bants and just ridiculous.
We must have, honestly, the amount of Corona lights we must have drank was just ridiculous. And I borrowed that pink bike. I remember.
Yeah. So I remember we went from the tiki bar, we watched the game. So that was obviously a couple of hours of like just drinking booze after booze and not eating anything. I think we were just eating like nuts or whatever was at the bar, right? And it was a really cool bar. Do you remember? Like, it was all kind of like really weird eclectic things on the walls and stuff like that, like whatever. Anyway, then you were like, right, I'll go and pick my stuff up. Like, let's cycle to where my kind of apartment is, as in you were saying this, pick up my kind of suit and things I'm going to wear, and then we'll cycle to where your place is, because it's right near where the wedding is. So I was like, yeah, cool. So obviously I followed you, and it was just hilarious because we were like sticking our hands out to turn left or right, as we were on the road.
We went to the ball shop as well. We were like riding with like a big, we went and got more. We were just like beer monsters that day. We were literally just drinking Corona Light like it was going out of fashion. Like we were just carrying it around with us.
Yeah, we had like, didn't yours have a basket on the front to put like the shopping in, like a little frilly basket? But I remember we were in that shop, just like a 7-Eleven, actually, I think it was. I've only ever seen in the movies before. Anyway, like we're in a 7-Eleven, and you like were obviously playing gags on me for just basically how white I am. And so you were like, oh, you're going to need some sun cream. I was like, I've got sun cream, like it's fine. You were like, well, what factor is it? I don't know, like 30, 40, something like that. Oh no, you're gonna need more than that. And you like picked up like factor 75, and it was literally like putting paint on my arm, like white paint, that you just like, it was just hilarious. I just remember just thinking whatever. But if you actually remember, maybe this is a different day, I might be muddling it up, but I remember when we went on another trip another day, and you were like saying, give me some of that sun cream, because you were burning, and so the joke was on you. But anyway, we made it to your like apartment place, picked up all your stuff, obviously had a couple more booze there, and then we cycled back to where mine was, and like that was kind of near where the wedding was. And we just had like a crate. We had so many bags of things we were carrying.
Yeah, bags of clothes, bags of Corona. Then we just had we had a ping pong competition, put some big tunes on, and then made our way over to the wedding. It was just a great day. I
remember everyone else was like pulling up in like nice cars, like wedding cars, all that sort of stuff.
Bentley arrived,
the Bentley Lambos, arrived. And then we came on bloody like penny farthings, like, covered in. So that was very, very funny. And then if you remember as well, we were very cheeky, and that like alcohol wasn't being served when we first got there. Do you remember? And like we were obviously buzzing at this point, because we probably had about 7 or 8 or maybe 10 Coronas, so we were half cut. And yeah, basically we were trying to sneak to see if they'd open the bar.
We got the bar open early for sure. I know that for a fact.
But it was fun. It was a good laugh.
It was a great wedding, actually. Great memories. Can't believe that's 3 years. I thought it was 2 years.
So what did you see? Memories or something on Facebook? Is that how you saw it?
Katie sent me a picture, so it was like that. And then I just thought, that was just a great week, because we did the bachelor party where we went on the boat trip, and we did all the cool stuff.
I can remember on that sort of boat thing when you were like stood at the back, right at the back of the boat, and then they like set it off really quick, and you just fell into the water. And all I just saw was your like head bobbing, and like your phone in the air, like you were holding your phone up. It was good gags.
Yeah.
So what's your plan then for this coming week? What's on the agenda? I've seen that you've been obviously smashing like the fitness and all that kind of stuff. So I know that's going to be like a major part. But yeah, what else is kind of on the agenda?
Yeah, it was my birthday on Monday as well.
Of course. So, yeah.
So that was interesting.
Do you have a party for one? A cake with one candle?
My friends came round with a pomegranate with a candle in it, believe it or not.
Right.
I couldn't. I was so busy on Monday. They said, they just rang the doorbell, and I was literally on a Zoom call like this. So I walked to the door with the laptop in hand, and I just said thanks. And then I'm seeing them tonight, actually. But I did literally nothing for my birthday. Just everything's been like Groundhog Day, hasn't it? These last 6-7 weeks, it's all been the same stuff. But one thing I did do the other day is I went for a really nice walk around all the big villas here.
Right.
And I would urge anybody to do this because it's just a really good thing for your mindset. And you get back to nature, it's really good because it's all quiet up there. It's up in the hills here. I don't know why I'm pointing. You can only see the cupboard. But up to the, up the hill, and then all these big 5, 6, 7 bedroom villas with private pools, and they're in their own ground. It's on my vision board to get something like that. So it was really, really good for getting me kind of fired up and excited. And the imagination's such a powerful thing where you can see it. And I was looking at it and I was just visualizing like throwing a big party and having all the family over and friends and just doing cool shit. And that's what really motivates me and inspires me. And I think I'll probably go again today to just get motivated, not get motivated, but almost top up my motivation.
Yeah,
and
I think
remember why I'm doing it. And I would advise anyone, wherever you live, go for a drive, go for a walk around the houses that you really want to aspire to live in.
Yeah, you aspire to get. Yeah.
It's good. But this week, it's been really good. You know, it's been one of those bumpy weeks, but I think it's mostly mindset. I think sometimes in your training is the same thing. Some days you're like, yes, I can smash a session. I feel really up for it. And then some days you're like, oh God, this is going to be torture. And there's no real difference. It's just how you're feeling in your head. And maybe a bit of the physiology, maybe some of the foods that you've eaten, maybe you're not as hydrated, maybe you're just tired, maybe your cortisol level's a little bit higher. Like there's so many things that we don't look into, you know, in terms of our feelings. Like we just go, oh, I'm feeling rubbish today. And
like what
that we should be feeling bad. Like what's triggered all that? So I don't know, there's a few things. The other thing I booked a tennis lesson for Monday. I'm going to get back on the court, which I'm excited about. I'm hoping that the beaches will open here and I can start surfing. But it's weird, like they opened all the bars last week. So I know, and we never discussed this because you brought it up a few weeks ago, the non-alcoholic beer thing. So I went out last Saturday with a friend of mine and we went and sat in one of the terraces. You can't sit in the bar, but you can sit outside. And I was like, I've not been drinking. I'll be 20 weeks sober at the end of this week. And it was like, what am I going to do? Do I drink? Do I not drink? I've done my 120 days, but it's my birthday. Do I want to do sober? Do I want to be, I've been sober on my birthday. And I had like these conundrums going through my mind. Well, they love non-alcoholic beer in the Canary Islands in Spain. They're famous for it. Like they have loads of, they sell it. You know where you go in like some bars in England and it's like, no, we don't do non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
Here they do. They have loads of it. I don't know why. Maybe it's to do with the driving laws or something. They always have it. So I had this urge that I really wanted a beer, and you just started getting all these thoughts. Like you were saying the other week, like the trigger of sitting in the back garden, just popping a beer, celebrating the working week, and I just had the non-alcoholic beer, and it took the edge right off. So that night, I think last Saturday, I probably drank about 5 cans of Heineken Zero. There are other brands available. 5 cans of Heineken Zero. Woke up the next day, didn't feel hungover, didn't have any beer fear, and still had a good night. Didn't stay out till 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Was like actually home.
Well, that's when it dies off anyway.
Yeah,
like,
and it wasn't a big night anyway because everyone's just kind of getting back into it, which is weird. So it wasn't like it was worth. I guess this was the point that I was trying to get to. The non-alcoholic beer took the edge off enough. It wasn't worth having alcohol anyway. It wouldn't have enhanced the night anymore, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I like a couple of things. First, I want to touch on is you talking about walking around like the big houses and such. Like I've done this all my life, and I think it's one of the things that keeps you like focused when times are like tough. So it's kind of like I've always looked online at mansions I spoke about that Zillow like app of like, I want to live in LA. So all the time, I didn't used to do it daily. Now I do it daily. I'm looking at mansions that I want to live in. And like just everything that I want, I'm kind of like looking at all the time. So it's always in my mind. So like, when things don't go quite right, it doesn't matter, because you were talking about topping up your motivation. I know that every morning I top my motivation back up. So I could have had the worst day ever, like for whatever reason, but I top it right back up and I reset that next day. So I think, and we did a podcast on this years ago about like creating anchors, basically, which is like if you've been able to experience first class like air travel once, then you come off that. You never want to travel economy again almost. So you work your ass off then to like pay, you know, to like earn more money to do it. Obviously, there are other reasons why you go economy, like you were talking about a couple of weeks ago and all that, but that's a separate sort of thing. And actually what's key to remember is the thing that motivates you to get stuff done isn't always the thing you then want to go out and buy. Like Jim Rohn always talks about, hey, I wanted to have a chauffeur. That was my goal. I wanted someone to drive me around all the time. And he got to the point where he could afford a chauffeur, but he actually decided he wanted to buy a nice car for himself instead, and he drive. So it doesn't have to be the thing that the thing that motivates you. Second thing is on the non-alcoholic topic, like I think I've gone all in on this. And what I mean is that like I realized, as I've already spoken on the podcast before, that I had this cycle of like working my ass off and then I guess getting drunk and then feeling, oh, wait, hold on a minute. It hadn't really worked that hard, or I wasn't exactly where I want to be, or blah, blah, blah. So I realized that that's my kind of trigger for like the negative spiral is alcohol. But I love, like you were saying, that cracking that beer on a Friday or a Saturday or whatever when the sun's out and stuff like that. And so I just looked into like, places. There's like a website that's called like drydrinker.com or something like that, that has like every type from Estrella, Heineken, like all Peroni, all the best beers that you would drink. And they have a non-alcoholic version of them, right? So I've got some in, like I've got non-alcoholic Peronis, non-alcoholic Estrella and stuff like that. And they're all right. Like they're good. They do exactly what I want it to be, which is I want an ice cold drink that's like I can have 2 or 3 bottles of, and that's it. I'm not that bothered. I also went a step further. And the other thing I love to have, like my favorite, I guess, cocktail. No, brewery. Yeah. No, but one of the things that I love to have is like a whiskey as well. Like, as in like an old fashioned, that's like got a bit of like orange in there, a bit of like sugar syrup, whatever. So I was like, I love that. I absolutely love it. And like to take that away for the rest of my life would be like, it's like, I don't want to do that basically. So then I found a company that's called Liars, which is a good name, I suppose. And they make non-alcoholic spirits. So gin, vodka, whiskey, rum. So I bought a bottle of the non-alcoholic whiskey, and like it tastes great, and like there's just no alcohol in it, and it's like all this time I've been thinking that it's the alcohol that I've actually liked when it's not. It's the social element. If like people are having a beer, you can still have a beer. Like that's the thing people crave, and you feel like you have to drink the alcohol because why would you just be stood there drinking water? Like it's hard to do that. Whereas if you've got the bottle of beer that's feels like a bottle of beer, it tastes the same.
Well,
like
that goes into that conversation because I've had this a lot. I've always drank non-alcoholic beer when I've not been drinking, and people go, "Why would you drink non-alcoholic beer? What's the point?" And I'm like, "No, you're missing the point. The point is the alcohol is the thing that causes you the problem. It's not the beer.
The thing you enjoy is the other element. Like,
yeah." Because I wouldn't ever go to a bar and go, "Can I have a pint of pure alcohol, please?" No,
yeah,
right. So this is the key. Now, I'm not saying I won't ever have a full strength beer again. I probably will, but at the minute, I was just like, as soon as I had the exact same thing as you. I had like that craving, and the triggers started coming. Like, yeah, it'd be really nice to have a beer and just sit there and chill and just forget. And the guy that I was meeting, a good friend of mine, he's not into my business. He's not into that circle. So it was good just to have some friends that don't do what you do.
So you're not just taking a break from work to just talk about the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, I was just really looking forward to it. And he had a few full strength beers himself, but I just had these non-alcoholic Heinekens, and it just took the edge off. And then I was ready for going home at like 11 o'clock. I was like, you know what, I'm done. And that was good because then you can reassess like what would have happened. It's almost like you play 2 movies. Like we got 2 screens here. There's like the movie of what would have happened if I'd have been drinking. the movie of what would have happened without. And what happened with that is I went home, I made an omelette for my tea when I got in, and I got a good night's sleep, woke up the next day without any beer fear, felt really good, productive, got a great workout in, and cracked on with my day. The other side of the movie probably would have been, I'd have probably drank about 5 or 6 pints. I'd have eaten a pizza on the way home. I'd have put loads of bad stuff into my body. I'd have then got up the next morning, felt sluggish, felt tired, felt demotivated. The workout would never have been as good. Right? The workout
and might not have even happened, and then that's a cycle. Then
maybe I wouldn't have even done it. Maybe I would have just gone for a walk instead. I would have done something definitely, but so it's just that impulse of like, at the minute, that impulse, the bell was ringing really loud. It was like, you really want a beer, you really want a proper beer, you really want a proper beer. And then as soon as I heard that, as the can opened and I got the ice cold can in my hand, I was like, this is cool. And you forget that it's, when you taste it, it tastes pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You have that instant sort of, I've had it. I guess it's the same thing with people that really want a coffee. Like, I really need a coffee. I really need a coffee. I really need, and when they have it, they get that, I've had my coffee now. And that was the same.
Well, I've done the same with decaf coffee as well. So like I was saying a couple of weeks ago, like we have coffee just gets delivered, like the Nespresso pods, you know, that you get. And so I just switched that out to decaf ones and like, don't know any difference. The only difference is I'm not putting a shed load of caffeine into my body for no reason. And I don't feel any more tired or less tired or any, like, it's just, you know, in fact, I probably have more energy because I'm not relying on almost like an impulse. But you touched on something there that was like, that you won't not drink again. And that's exactly the same for me. What I've realized is that when I drink for things that are like valuable, so to celebrate something that's really worth celebrating, so not convincing myself that it's worth celebrating, but something that actually is worth celebrating, and having a drink and remember that. Because let's not forget, we've had some amazing nights out that we've really enjoyed, and alcohol has been a major part of it, but we've been there, we've been celebrating something, we've been doing it for a reason. And so what I'm trying to do is capture those moments. So if I drink 2 or 3 times a year at the most, that's all I need, because you only really do 2 or 3 major things a year. And I'm like saying, you know, so you don't need that Saturday afternoon drink of alcohol. You can have the non-alcoholic beer because that's the relax, and you're getting the relax, but it doesn't tie over into any other day or any other negative.
Anything. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Doesn't. What do they say now about it? That the hangover steal. I can't remember the quote. It's something like, you're stealing the hours from tomorrow to put into today. Like alcohol steals tomorrow's hours and brings them to today. And that's what happens. Because there's been many a time, and I know we've discussed this before, but I've literally been at home. The weather's been nice. I've cracked a few beers open and I've sat in the garden and done, you know, put some tunes on, and 1's turned to 2 and 2's turned to 3. And, you know, the next minute it's like 5 a.m. and I'm sat up in my front room watching old school R&B, just reminiscing and, you know, and it is good for that. But then it's that whole, you've stolen, alcohol steals yesterday's, tomorrow's hours, or whatever the quote is. So I think you're so right. I've actually said that, just, you know, my fridge now has got a 6-pack of non-alcoholic beers in it, that if I think, I really fancy a beer and just watch the sunset, I can do it. But there's not that follow-on of, you're going to drink another and you're going to drink another, because it's the alcohol that makes it addictive. Nobody ever has 7 or 8, 10 cans of Coke back to back to back to back to back, because there's no alcohol in it. Right. But
you don't drink that much liquid. It's almost too much liquid to consume.
Yeah, but you do when it's a beer. Like, what people just keep drinking pints after pints after pints. So they wouldn't do it with any other liquid. You wouldn't have 10 pints of soup, right? So why did he do it when it's a pint of Stella or a pint of Peroni? Because it's the alcohol that is making you want to drink more. So it's the alcohol that's in that is ruining it. But you can still get that same experience that you've just talked about there. And I did my post the other day about my birthday, and I wanted to share some stuff. And what dawned on me really in 2018 was, I was drinking when I was low mood. So I would drink when I was low mood to bring me up to a good mood. So like how I feel today, I would 100% have used alcohol to elevate my mood. Not that I'm in a bad mood, or not that I'm down, or I'm in like a low, this is a bad, I'm just not as high as sort of I was maybe
Right.
last podcast or whatever. I'm just in a chilled kind of low mood. So the old me would definitely have used alcohol on a day like today, right? And then the other bit is, if I was in a really good mood, if I was in a really high mood, I'd be like, yes, I feel high, I feel good, like everything's going great. I've been training all week, business is booming. Let's take the high higher to another level, right? So then you go from the high to the higher high. And then the other bit in the middle was, I'm bored. And this is what a lot of people are doing now. They're like, they never drink in the house and they never drink at home, but during the work week, they're like, yeah, I'm drinking every day because I've nothing else to do. So it was like, those were the three things for me. I drink when my mood was low, I drink when I was bored, and I drink when my mood was high to get higher. And now I don't need that anymore. So I think, like you just said, having those 4 or 5 times in a year where you do something amazing and you enjoy a glass of wine, a glass of champagne, a bottle of beer to celebrate your success.
And you won't need as much then either, because you've not drank. It's easy to build tolerances to things like caffeine, alcohol, stuff like that. And then when you take them out, you only need a few beers then before you get to that stage. So then the next day, your body can flush out beer quicker or alcohol quicker because you haven't had as much. You haven't had 20 pints. Well, I mean, that's a fair amount, but like you haven't had like, you haven't literally drank a bucket of beer. But I don't know, maybe then what it comes back to as well is like, I've addressed other areas of my life, and I feel like the alcohol thing's like a byproduct. And what I mean is, like, I'm so clear now on what the business is that we're doing and how we're delivering that to clients. And like, I feel like I've got all my ducks in a row so that there doesn't need to be this distraction of beer. And maybe when I was turning to beer was because like, I was maybe a bit lost in what I was doing. And so like I was using the beer as an escape, I suppose. Whereas like now it's like, well, what's the point? Because I'm actually like, everything's buzzing. Everything's like in the right direction and going the right way. And it's like, you don't need that caffeine boost. Like I say, why would I need caffeine when now I'm jumping out of bed at like 6:30 in the morning before my alarm goes off at 6:45. And every morning I'm like, oh, what time is it? Oh, have I slept in? And I look, because it's obviously always bright outside at that point. Look at my phone, it's like 6:32, and I'm like, all right, my alarm hasn't even gone off yet. And it's like, you don't need coffee then. You know what I mean? You don't need caffeine then. And then in the evening time, right, I'm like getting pretty strict. Well, I'm not getting pretty, I am pretty strict with my bedtime. And so I basically have to be asleep between 9 and 9:30. And so like, I'm not looking, because I know that caffeine is obviously a stimulant. Alcohol is as well. It's a depressant and a stimulant. So it's like, so when I finish the work day at like 7, the last thing I want to put into my body is alcohol or caffeine, because I've got to be asleep in 2 hours. And like, I have to be, because I know that the cause and effect, going back to obviously, like talking about this ring and all that kind of, the things I've been plotting on the graph and stuff, is like the days that aren't at a 90% productivity, I can clearly see that I ate late, didn't get enough sleep. It's all there. And it's like, then I'm just treating my body like a machine, which is like, if you had a really expensive car, you wouldn't want to put like terrible fuel in it that was all oily and dirty and all that, because you would wreck the car, you would wreck the machine.
You'd put it in a nice garage, you'd look after it,
exactly.
You'd wax it.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've never done before with and then coupling that, obviously, like I say, I'm sort of only eating once a day, max maybe twice if I have a bit of breakfast in the morning, but really I'm just having like lean chicken or fish, rice, and like plain pasta or something like that, like eating really, really clean.
Conor McGregor's interview with Tony Robbins, and he was like, it dawned on him. He said he got to where he got just by like, doing his camps. He said, when I did my camps, like we worked really hard in them, but he said he then read an article by Kobe Bryant or whatever, and he was like, he realized that, or it might have been LeBron James, I can't remember, but he realized how much, he said, I think it was LeBron James actually, he said LeBron James spends like $4 million a year on his body, like his physical, his mental, his like you said, treating his body like a machine. And he said, I didn't spend nothing. He's got the cryo chamber in his house. He's got all this to improve his performance. So
Yeah.
I think it's so important that you realize, like, obviously you don't have to go and spend all that money, but you realize that you treat your body. It is a machine. You've got to look after it because if you want it to perform better, if you want to achieve and let's face it, we all want to achieve that. We want to achieve quicker, right? We all want it now because we're all on a timer. Well, the time's right now that, like, the villa that I want, I want it. I want it. And I don't want it in 10 years. I want it now because I want to start to enjoy. The quicker I get it, the quicker I can start to enjoy it. Hey, I'm enjoying my life at the minute, but this is what I want to achieve. So it's like, if I tweak my body and my brain and everything and get everything moving more streamlined, I can achieve those goals a lot quicker because I know that timer is ticking. I see it like when I'm in the sauna, the little grains of sand just going down and down.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to have. You have to create that sense of urgency. So, of course, I think you're always on a level like where you're close to burnout. You're close to that. Your revs are getting a bit too high. Just got to drop it down a little bit and then keep going at that good pace. So I think for me this week is going to be super exciting. Close off May. Can't believe it's like...
Close off May? As in like close on May? Keep your clothes on, lad.
No, I mean close off the month.
Yeah, to finish the month. Yeah.
No,
I knew what you meant, but you just said it's close off May. I'm excited. It's close off May.
It's the coronavirus is now...
On that note of...
Just wear a mask and nothing else.
Yeah, and some socks, hopefully. But what I was going to say is, like, so tell me about the laws then that are in where you are. Like, as in, obviously you guys were a lot stricter than us, and now it seems like you're a bit more, it's more relaxed, as in, like, there's no kind of bars.
That's weird. So they've opened up bars and terraces. So you can't, the tennis club is open, so you can play racket sports and stuff like that. So obviously it's social distancing.
Yeah.
The bars are open, small bars are open, but they're only allowed to have a certain amount of people in them, and you cannot sit inside. You have to sit outside, obviously, for the oxygen. Yeah. So, but then 2 days ago, they made it compulsory that you have to wear a mask. So if you go anywhere in public, you have to wear a mask.
Right.
I just find it ironic. Like, I walked down to the supermarket yesterday to wear a mask, with my mask on, to go and buy some stuff. And next door is a shisha bar that is absolutely jam-packed with people smoking shisha. And I'm like, how can that be open when it's affecting people's lungs? And it's literally just passing shisha pipes around. Yeah, you've got to wear a mask to go and buy a tin of beans. So, I don't know. It's all just a little bit weird. I just don't get it. I don't think, to be honest with you, anyone has a clue how bad this is, how bad it could be, what the real cause of it is, what's going to happen. I mean, this one thing I realize is life has changed forever. Like, it'll never go back to what it was. I mean, we're in May now, and there's no sign of it coming down. Every time they reopen, it spikes again. So what does this mean now? Are people going to be you're going to be flying around private jet everywhere? Like, you're going to
I've added that to my list, so I never really considered buying a private jet. I just had it in my brain that I would like just charter jets as and when. But then I thought, like, if I'm going to be living in the States, like, and my family are in the UK and things like that, I need to be able to get on a plane at the drop of a hat. And so I've looked at the Gulfstream, the G280s, which are like the the smallest one they do. Really nice, whatever. You can get a secondhand one, like a 2017 model, for like $14 million, something like that. Yeah. And then it costs you about, if you're chartering it out to people when you're not using it, then your sort of costs outwards are about like 1.2 million a year. So that's on my list now, is like 14 million. Doesn't seem crazy amounts. Like, if you have a net worth of 100 million, like 14% of that, it's not the end of the world. Like, you can, and if that's the thing that's like your main vehicle.
Thought about that now? Is it because you think that this travel thing is going to?
Yeah, I don't really want to be on planes, with other people, because the other thing that, and maybe this is going to make people more sort of prejudiced, but not in the normal sense that people are prejudiced. As in like, the way people are stupid and like racist or whatever, don't like different religion, all that kind of idiotic stuff. But it's like a prejudice that, like, I don't know where you've been. I don't know what you've touched. I don't know what, have you washed your hands? I don't know. Like, there's so many things going through people's brains now. Like, I don't think I'll ever shake someone's hand for a long time. Like, it sounds so bizarre, but like, why would I bother? I can still say, hey.
You don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But they were saying this I was listening to the Joe Rogan thing, and he had Elon Musk on there, and he was saying like the cases of this coronavirus are so much higher in men because they're not as hygienic.
Yeah,
like,
I watched that actually. Yeah.
Wash their hands after they've had a pee and things like that, and it's like that. If there's one thing that comes out of it, it is that hand sanitizer is going to be everywhere, and people are going to be washing their hands, and I think that'll be a good thing. But I know what you mean. It's like we've been elbowing people. Like when I've been meeting people, it's like literally elbow. It's like, but what was the handshake anyway? That was just a belief. Exactly.
That's a societal thing. Similar to, if you own a business, you need to have an office and your employees need to come to an office. Another societal thing. Why? There's loads of businesses out there that are all freelance, or like everyone works from home and they're very, make hundreds of millions a year. And it's like, I think this is not just about, like, there's so many industries that are going to get shook up, and not even industries, so many like cultural things that we do, shaking hands, going to an office. Because like, I bet most people that work in offices don't actually believe, before this pandemic, didn't actually believe that you could be productive and work from home. And so anyone they ever met that said, oh yeah, I work from home or whatever, they would probably think in the back of their mind, yeah, you probably don't do that much. But now that culture's been forced into it, I think most people, because most people have to work from home, unless they're like key workers or whatever that are on site and different things, is like, yeah, like it's going to shift the norms. The norms are changing, like what it is to go to an office, what it is to have a job, what that means is now changing and will change forever. And I think another one, is social distancing. I never even considered, and maybe I should have done, and most people do this, I don't know. But if I picked a basket up at like a Tesco Express, put my shopping in it, checked out, put it in the boot of my car, I wouldn't then like think to wash my hands. Like, it just never crossed my brain. I mean, I don't know if it did you. Maybe I'm just not clean. I don't know. But like, I never thought about
different levels of that. Like, you've got some people that when they've washed their hands in the bathroom in a public toilet, they then don't want to touch the handle
on the way out. Yeah.
Undone. If Jimmy before you has not washed his hands and he's touched the handle, but I mean, it could go on and on and on and on. It's like, what we're going to be doing, walking around in space suits all day.
Bubble wrap.
How's it? I mean, and then are they going to bring out a new law where it's like tables have to be certain spaces apart to, are you going to have to go around? Like, I don't know. They brought in this mask thing to go shopping. Is everyone literally going to be walking around the supermarket looking like a dentist? What happens when you go to the dentist? You might actually sit down and open your mouth, and it might not be the dentist. It might be someone else in the waiting room.
Yeah, you don't know who's the dentist anymore. So you're saying to me the only way you identified who a dentist was because they wear a mask. So if you met somebody in a bar,
I'm wearing one.
If you met somebody in a bar and they said, "Oh, what do you do? I'm a dentist. I don't believe you," and they just got his mask out and put it on, you're like, "All right, I see it now." But one of the things that was on that Joe Rogan podcast, which I urge anybody to go and listen to with Elon Musk, they've done two, but there was one obviously came out recently, was like, he was talking about his Neuralink, the other company that he's founded, which is basically putting a chip in your brain, and then you're like basically connected to the internet essentially. So there's loads of iterations of this, but the initial one is going to be focusing on people who've had like major brain trauma, like maybe dementia or Alzheimer's, or they've had strokes or whatever, and they're going to put the chip in the brain and basically link up the neurons that have kind of I guess gone missing or broke or whatever. I don't know the science behind it. And they're going to help people who've had strokes that maybe their face or the muscles are relaxed or their arms, they can't move. They're going to be able to move those arms again. Or like paraplegics that are like paralyzed from the waist down, they're going to be able to put something in the brain, connect two things up that have essentially are not connected anymore, and they're going to be able to walk again. And that's kind of like first stage, which is amazing. But then the second stage, so that would only be in like severe cases of people that, go to hospital for those specific things. So you're not opting in for that. You're like going because like you've got a problem you want to overcome essentially. But the next stage is that like everybody has them in their brains. So it's not a case of like, oh, everyone needs to wash their hands and blah, blah, because you think, well, why are we washing our hands? Is because we might get a disease and blah, blah, and all that kind of stuff. We might get coronavirus in this instance. But if we could like the second you get coronavirus, if your chip in your brain could tell you you've got coronavirus, like you don't have to wait 2 weeks, you don't have to whatever, like you would then go into isolation the second, so you wouldn't spread it. So it's kind of like using the technology of that chip.
Virtual PA.
Well, yeah, it's like reading your whole body all the time. So, and then obviously I've just used the example of coronavirus, but it could be like, it can predict when you're going to have a heart attack. Like it's going to know, like, as in, oh, you're going to have a heart attack in the next 2 hours, get to hospital sort of thing. Like, it'll be able to do all those things because a lot of stuff that happens in the body isn't an instant thing that happens. Some is, because I guess to do with like nerves and whatever, but a lot isn't. So it happens over time. And so like this thing with a bit of artificial intelligence, we'll be able to predict those things happening. So for coronavirus, I don't think it would go down the route of everyone's in a bubble suit. It would more likely go down the route of everyone's got a chip in their head that's scanning their body all the time for everything and anything from cancers to coronavirus and viruses and stuff like that. And the second there's a detection of it, you then go and take action at that point. So you don't, because who goes, I mean, obviously it's a horrific topic, but people go and get diagnosed with cancer, but they might have had it for 6 weeks, 8 weeks at that point, and they've started to feel a pain, and that's what they've gone to see the doctor about. Whereas if this chip can detect it the minute a cancer is formed on minute 1, that's like, oh, that's something different in the body, that shouldn't be there. You go to the doctor at that point, and in fact, you might not even need to go to the doctor. The chip just sends all the data to the doctor and says, this is the data, you know what I mean? And they just look at it, you don't even need to see it. So that's coming, and like I'm very excited for that, because it's like there's so much. It kind of goes on to Elon Musk ideology of like artificial intelligence is gonna like overtake us on this planet. Like that's just gonna happen. It's inevitable. So he's kind of a bit of like, well, if we can't beat them, let's join them. Like let's become, if you will, cyborgs, if you will, like half man, half machine. That's the only way we're gonna sort of be able to continue long term. Anyway, on that note, total side off.
Picture with Mark Hudson.
Yeah, but I just like, that's what Elon Musk is obviously pushing, is progressing humanity, whether that be going to Mars, solar things, Tesla, Neuralink. These are all things that, how do we prolong life as it is? So I think he's a massive inspiration. So if anyone's not seen that Joe Rogan and Elon Musk podcast, go and watch it, because it's pretty damn good.
The Extra 10% Podcast. Remember to like the John and Mark Facebook page on Facebook, or visit johnandmark.co.uk for exclusive updates and content. Why not share this podcast with a friend and help them get paid tomorrow for what they do today?